Guys, before you go on to this clip, please don't forget to press the subscribe button for more content like this. We post all our clips on this channel from the podcast. I know you're going to enjoy this quite a lot.
The thing is that China has many problems of its own. First of all, it has a demographic issue. So there is something called TFR, total fertility rate.
Okay.
So that is on average, how many children does the average woman in that nation produce?
Okay.
Right. In her lifetime.
Right.
So to sustain your population, you need a TFR, total fertility rate of 2.1. So the average woman should produce on average 2.1 children. That's how you can sustain your population. In India, it's 2.0. So we're slightly below replacement. Okay.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. In China, it's 1.09. What that tells you, and China's median age right now is 38. So the average Chinese citizen is 38 years old. And they have a total fertility rate of 1.09, which means that their population is going to decline drastically. There's a demographic disaster impending. By 2100, their population from all projections is expected to be around 600-700 million, less than half of what it is today. And it's going to be way older, like around 58 or something, median age. Imagine a nation where the average person is 58 years old.
That's a very bad situation to be in.
And more. There's more to this. In China, China is a really, really, really strange society. You go to China, you meet any person, an average person, random person. That person won't have any brother or sister.
Yeah.
He won't have any cousins. He won't have any aunt or uncle. He won't have any nephews or nieces. He's just what is left of an ancient lineage. Every family is an ancient lineage. And in China, every individual is what is left. The only thing that is left of an ancient lineage. Now imagine you have a young man who is being sent to the front lines to fight for China.
You're basically decimating your ancients.
You're decimating your ancient lineages. And every family it cherishes whatever is left of its lineage. It doesn't want that to be extinguished.
Right.
So there is this psychological factor that every soldier who goes to the front line knows full well that he might take a bullet and that will be the end of his entire lineage. So that is a huge incentive or disincentive towards fighting. They want to stay alive. They don't want to die.
Right.
It doesn't, you die, your entire lineage goes.
Right.
Your family line dies with you.
Right.
So there are all these factors when it comes to China. And there are the economic bubbles and whatnot. And obviously it's a one-party system, the imperial,
Communist China.
Communist China kind of thing and all.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of problems within China. So if you look at the long-term prognosis for China, it's not great. It's not great at all. Yeah. But till 2050 or so, it's going to be a major economy. And from our perspective, it's going to be a major threat. But long term, if we can ride out that wave till 2050, no one can stop us.
Okay, I have a tiny question and then I have a bigger question. I'll ask both of them so we can sort of, The tiny question is this, that if India has a 2.0 birth rate and we reproduce like flies, right? Like, I think I sneeze and there is 10,000 more of us like in that very minute. Then and given that all Western countries have an actual fertility problem where they take like months to pretty much get pregnant, which I think is a silent biological disaster that nobody ever speaks about. Like when I'm in America and Europe and they tell me about, we've been trying to get pregnant for 2 years, I'm like, man, if you were in India, it would just snap and you're there, right?
Yeah.
Then what are their TFRs and how is that not a dangerous worldwide situation?
It is. Okay. Yeah.
And the second question, just so I place it on the table, is I often feel that this kind of friendship we have with the United States as a counterbalance to China is not healthy. I know Indians like it because we feel like we're on the stronger side, but I feel like we will be the sacrificial lamb in this case. Like they'll throw us to be like, tum lad lo, you take their power away and then we'll come sort of capture whatever is left.
Yeah.
So those are my two questions.
So when it comes to the TFR in Europe, it's all bad. There's no nation that I can think of in Europe that has a healthy TFR. And you must have heard Elon Musk complaining about this, falling population levels are a problem, not rising population levels. Because we have the technology, the resources, all that to sustain large populations, 8-9 trillion, whatever it is right now. What is it?
7 point something.
7 point something right now.
Jamie, pull that up, bro.
Yeah, so it's around 7 point something trillion, less than 8.
Right.
But we have the technology, the resources, the know-how and so on and so forth to sustain a population of, let's say, 10 trillion. Let's say, okay? The problem is that when your population 7.8. The problem is when your population starts to decline over time, over a long period of time, what that does is that it starts raising the median age of a nation, of a population, what that tells you is that the entire vigor of the population goes down. The older you are on average, the less vigorous you are. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, you're less aggressive, you're less fighty, less expansionist, less all of that.
All of that, yeah.
You're more wise.
You're wiser and you're slower and you're more of a less of a risk taker.
Live and let live kind of thing.
Yeah. So what happens is that it brings down the overall energy level of a nation, the vigor of a nation, and the overall output, productivity, all of that of a nation. You know, it's bad for a nation to have a high median age. Right. So you have declining birth rates. So you are producing fewer and fewer kids every year on aggregate, and you have an ever aging population. That's what's happening across the West, across Europe, across the Americas. What you're seeing in Russia, in Russia as well actually. Russia, Japan, South Korea, you're seeing that. India, we are at 2.0. Japan is bad.
South Korea, they don't want to get married because they're like, the cost of living is so high. I don't want to have kids.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to have kids.
It's so
it's
interesting
crazy.
because we don't give a shit about that at all, no matter how much money we have in our pockets in India, right? Like, it's so interesting. Anyway, yes, please.
Yeah, so that's the deal. Okay, right. So what's happening now in Europe is that they're importing people from other parts of the world, like Africa and all that, and they're gonna bring in the vigor and all that, but that's gonna
change the demographic forever.
Well, you know what? One of the national security issues, one of the national interests, one of the core or vital or non-negotiable national interests of any nation, of any society, is demographic and religious and cultural continuity and integrity, and that's being messed with when you do large scale immigration from any other part of the world.
Right.
I'm not saying X nation or Y nation, any nation,
any mass immigration of that nature historically has proven to truly tear the social fabric in certain ways.
And that's what we are beginning to see in Europe.
Exactly.
In various parts of Europe. Okay, so that's the deal. So their TFR is falling. Their average median age is rising. These are becoming older societies, and then they are importing people from other parts of the world who have a totally different set of values and customs and all that, and that's causing all these clashes. So that's what we are seeing in Europe.
Guys, if you're interested in more content like this where it actually makes you think and explore how you think inside your head, dude, subscribe, man.